I have never refused to speak out on this issue because I'm a victim of crime. I'm a victim of conspiracy to commit perjury, to suborn perjury, extortion. And I want to speak out, and I'm going to continue to speak out about this. I'm going to write a book about it called Suitable for Framing. Let me state just categorically first, I never met these women. I never heard of them. It's a completely made-up story. This is the only Me Too case in history where there is no relationship between the accuser and the accused. In every other case, yeah, we had sex, but it was consensual. Yeah, she worked for me, but I didn't touch her. In this case, I categorically never met or heard of these people. And they both said so in emails, in recordings. They both said so until they met David Boies. And once they met David Boies, and David Boies promised them big paydays, they changed their story, and they then falsely claimed in one case that I had been the lawyer for this woman, I never met her, and that she participated in a threesome with me, but not my style, and that, and the other case that I had sex with her 7 times on an island that I had never been to except with my wife and daughter, in a ranch, all these exotic places. And I have records, my travel records, my TV records, my court records, my American Express records, that categorically prove I could never have been in any of those places. And best of all, I have a tape recording by David Boies, the woman's lawyer, who tells me on tape that it was impossible for me to have been in those places and that his client is, quote, wrong, simply wrong. And then I have emails from the woman accusing me to a friend of hers who was working on a book with her saying, I don't remember who I had sex with, just tell me. And then she responds by saying, well, we know you didn't have sex with Dershowitz, but you should mention him in the book. It will help you sell the book, because he wrote Reversal of Fortune. And then she puts me in the book as someone she did not have sex with. So the evidence is just overwhelming and conclusive. On their side, all they have are 2 witnesses who have long histories of lying. In one case, the first woman, Virginia Roberts, claimed she had dinner with Al Gore and Tipper Gore on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Al Gore and Tipper Gore have never met Jeffrey Epstein. They were never on the island. She claimed she had dinner twice with Bill Clinton, who was flown to the island by a rookie novice helicopter pilot with Secret Service agents on the plane. Secret Service records prove that Epstein was never on the island. This other woman who accused me has emails she wrote to the New York Post saying she has sex tapes of Hillary Clinton, of Donald Trump, of Bill Clinton and Richard Branson. And in the email, she mentions all the people she had sex with, never mentions me. She says I was her lawyer, which isn't true, but she never says she had sex with me. So that's the quality of the 2 women who have accused me for money, and on my side, I have all this evidence on the other side. There's never been a clearer case of innocence, and yet the media doesn't believe it, and people don't believe it. They say if a woman says it, it must be true. If a man denies it, it must be false. And if a man denies something like this, he has been being abusive to women. How dare you call a woman a liar? My God, that's the worst kind of sexism. Well, I'm going to continue to call these women liars, and I'm going to continue to call their lawyers people who help put them up to these lies, because the evidence is clear. They never accused me until they met their lawyers. So it's an open and shut case, and yet newspapers and the media still carry stories accusing me falsely. The New Yorker is about to write a hit piece on me, and I have evidence that the editor of the New Yorker told people the reason they're doing a hit piece is because of my support for Trump's legal rights, my support for Benjamin Netanyahu, and my support for Israel. And they're trying to silence my voice explicitly. They think they can destroy my career and my integrity by making these false accusations, and then I won't stand up for the legal rights of Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the state of Israel.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. But first,
I will not refuse to answer any question. I'm an open book. I did nothing wrong. I've had sex with one woman during this relevant period of time. My wife, who I love, I adore, and who is helping me in this case. She's been basically my paralegal and my assistant. I have nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of. Shoot away. Ask me any question, I will answer.
See, this had so much credibility to you because no man in your position and seeing what happens to dirtbags and how stupid that would be to say those things if they weren't true, because somebody's going to go out to try to prove you wrong.
Contrast it. The two women who have accused me refuse to speak to you, refuse to speak to the New Yorker, refuse to speak to the Miami Herald, refuse to speak to the New York Times. They only make the accusation from behind the litigation privilege because they know if they say it in court papers, then I can't sue them for defamation. And the whole plot is they accuse me behind litigation privilege and court papers. They leak it to the press. Then I deny it in public to the media, as I am doing right now, and then they sue me for defamation. That's the plan, and that's the way they're hoping to make more money. But I'm not going to settle this case. I'm going to litigate it and prove that they have committed perjury, and I'm going to try to get the FBI to investigate both me and them to see who's telling the truth and who's lying. I'm confident of the result.
So one of the people, and you started with David Boies, and most people probably don't know who he is. I remember him as the guy who defended Al Gore in the 2000 election, but he is probably, one of the top 5 attorneys in the country. You came out swinging and said that you are, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words into your mouth because I know you're careful with words, but it sounded to me like you're saying he framed you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I am saying that he was part of a system where these women, and he was their lawyer, framed me. Remember, he's also the same lawyer who was representing the New York Times and hired people to extort, threaten, get information on a New York Times reporter. And the New York Times thought it was such a horrible conflict of interest, they fired him and wrote an editorial. He tried to stop the Me Too movement by trying to prevent the New York Times from publishing material about Harvey Weinstein. He's engaged in similar tactics with other women. His history with women is horrible, and he's trying to now compensate for that long history by supporting women, but he's destroying the Me Too movement because I'm going to prove at trial that these women made up a story for money, and it's going to hurt the Me Too movement. I don't want to hurt the Me Too movement because it's very important when we're dealing with truthful stories. But, I think it was Eric Hoffa who once said, every cause starts as a movement, it then becomes a business, and ultimately it degenerates into a racket. And David Boies is turning the Me Too movement into a racket to try to obtain money from people who are telling lies to help him and to help themselves.